Urban explorers of Reddit, what is your creepiest, most horrifying experience? Went to a closed-up mental hospital in my city with some friends at night. Everything was cool until we got to the basement, where there were 5-meter wide and 4-meter high lit tunnels going far to both directions. We headed down one end and found a huge active generator. We went the other way, and as we were about to hit another intersection, we saw 2 men wearing full green attire and face masks walking at the end of one of the corridors at 2 a.m. We got out of there real quick. Exploring an abandoned construction site. It's a site out in redneck country that's got a bunch of old construction vehicles getting overgrown with plants, and my GF and I decided to go check it out, see what it's all about. We look around and don't see a whole lot. It's about to rain, so we decide to head out. As we are getting in my car, my girlfriend freezes and says, "There's a guy in the woods watching us." I shit myself and ask if she's sure. She repeats herself and says he saw her see him and laid flat on the ground to hide himself. Noped out of there real quick. I live in a large African city which still has a fair amount of undeveloped/undevelopable space, and one rule to remember is that there is always someone else there that you may not see. There are people who sit alone, very quietly, in bushes or between boulders and other such places. They are, I think, harmless and don't do anything, but what they are doing has been a mystery to me for the 10 years I've been here. Most of them are too well dressed or well taken care of to be homeless. One annoying thing is that they stare at you, or at least they don't hide the fact that they are watching you. I swear if there was some completely inaccessible cave high up in a cliff here requiring professional scaling equipment to enter, they would find a local African guy just chilling inside with no discernible means of how he got there. My friends and I used to explore this old factory/processing plant, no idea what it was originally. Anyway, it had lots of underground sections which were pitch black even a couple of meters from the entrance, but which also required going down a flight of stairs. One time we found a burned out car 2 to 3 levels down, no idea how it got in there, but that was kinda creepy. Another time we found a hole, we didn't bring torches, flashlights, because we're idiots, but we had lighters. We were trying to figure out what the hole was or if it could lead anywhere. So we put a stick in there, and it ended up being at least 6 feet deep, but we also learned that it was full of some liquid and could have easily drowned in the dark if we had fallen in. Another time we went a couple of levels down, and one of us at the bottom started screaming shrieks of absolute terror, and the rest of us thought we were all going to be murdered. We all started running, everyone was screaming at this point, there was this sludgy shit on the ground, and some of us slipped and fell just like in a goddamn horror movie, slipping and sliding, our limbs out of control. Again, there were 6+ people screaming bloody murder with absolute fear and terror on their faces, so we all thought we were going to get murdered. Turned out a bird had made a nest down there, and my sister got spooked, and my friend screamed like a bitch. I was exploring a certain abandoned mill near a large city on the coast with a friend. We snuck in, messed around a bit, and realized that we only had one flashlight. Took turns, weird noises, dark inside because there's no power, evidence of homeless occupation and empty needles. Real horror game material. We come up the stairway and turn a corner ahead is a walkway bridge, the way to the rest of the building. To the right is a pitch black room that doesn't feel very nice. As we walk towards the bridge, the flashlight picks out a sign that says to hell and points towards this dark room. We didn't go in. Didn't feel right. Last winter, I went into this abandoned parking lot under a closed shopping mall. It had 2 levels. The upper level had a bit of sunlight going in through the windows, but the lower level was pitch black. I made my way down this wide ramp that the cars would use, and I decided to have a look at the bottom level. After turning my flashlight on, I noticed that the space was much bigger than the upper level. I remember how the light danced through the many supporting pillars and casted vivid shadows. I said hello and I'm just taking a look around just to make my intentions clear, but was met with no response. So I decided to walk around for a bit, but couldn't see anything of interest, just a lot of junk, some empty old bottles, but nothing that might indicate someone living or hanging around there. The place seemed completely abandoned. However, this uneasy feeling that someone might be hiding in the pitch black shadow of one of those pillars took the better of me, and I climbed back up the ramp. I left, taking a different route and passed under an overhead clearing that snow had fallen through. Just as I was about to hop the fence and leave, I noticed that the patch of snow that had formed had footprints in it. I know this doesn't really sound horrifying when you read it, as the logical explanation was that some poor chap had probably taken shelter from the cold inside the lot. But still, being there creeped the hell out of me. I drove a friend who was doing genealogy research on his family tree to an old cemetery that had individual family mausoleums, granite, with bronze doors and stained glass windows, for those who could afford them back in the day. It had been decades since his family mausoleum door had been unlocked and opened, so the caretaker had a hard time with the skeleton key trying to make the lock work. Finally, once we got inside, we discovered that a window on the backside, along the cemetery property line, back to back with a garage, so you couldn't easily see it, had been broken and vandals had entered through the rear. Sadly, they had pried open the sealed lids on several marble vaults and removed some of the remains, along with rings that had been interred with the bodies at the time. I had one creepy experience I already told, but my friends who always go exploring told me about this time. They were just following a trail that went into the hills, and after almost reaching the freeway, they ended up near an old closed-up train tunnel. They were able to squeeze through some loose fencing. After wandering through with nothing of interest, they eventually came to a bunch of shipping containers. They told me that when they glanced inside, they saw a ton of guns and ammo in one and just a shit ton of heavy boxes in the rest. After a few minutes of checking it out, they heard voices coming closer further down the tunnel, so they got out of there. They also said it almost smelled like the ocean towards the end, so the tunnel might have led out near the beach. Nothing big, but I was once exploring a drainage tunnel with friends. We were pretty deep inside of it and turned a corner to see someone leaning against the wall with a hat on. It ended up being a sandbag. Someone dressed up but scared the shit out of me because it was pretty deep in there. There were pants and shoes and a jacket with a hat on it. I don't know what they did to make the jeans look like legs, cause I didn't touch it or go back. A friend of mine went back and told me it was a sandbag, and I was already done for the day. Went to an abandoned hospital. There was a large square staircase spiraling up to the roof on the outside of the building, locked steel door at the bottom, so the only way up was to climb on the outside up to the first landing. My buddy boosts me up, I climb over, and there's a sleeping bag with a steak knife next to it on the landing. I call down, we're definitely not alone here, dude. No, but it's cool, says a voice behind me, scaring the shit out of me and causing me to jump and whirl around. There's a young dirty homeless looking guy standing there, coming down the stairs from above, hands up, palms out. I didn't mean to scare you. He takes a seat on the stairs, so I carefully step on the handle of the steak knife, lean over the edge, and pull my friend up. We had planned to sit on the roof and drink beer, so we offered the homeless guy a beer, which he gratefully accepted, and we shot the shit on the landing for a while. We're talking about the city, the cops, traveling, life in general. He's basically a drifter, been in town for a week or so, but a nice guy. Things are going pretty well when he asks, "You guys are human, right?" I hate it when I meet people that end up being aliens, and you never know until you peel their skin off. They've been after me a long time, you know, they don't stop, they never stop. Sometimes I think I should just kill everyone to be safe. He's definitely not joking, and there's an uncomfortable silence as my friend and I realize this guy is crazy. "Yeah, man," I say, "we're human. We just wanted to check out the place and drink some beer. We're gonna go ahead and move on now. We definitely don't want any trouble." He just stares in silence, so we leave him the last beer, carefully back up to the railing, jump down and walk away very quickly, constantly looking back over our shoulders. The entire time, he's just standing there, still and silent, watching us leave. That place is still abandoned, 5 years later, and we've never been back. I'm not a believer in the supernatural, but humans can be deceptive and dangerous in ways you can't see coming. This isn't really a scary or horrifying story, but more of a dodged bullet story. Me, my best friend and my cousin like to explore abandoned buildings and structures. At the time, we needed an abandoned location for a web series we were doing. So we walked across a large, barren field to get to an old, worn-down house. There was even a small old barn right next to it. It seemed like the perfect location. We walked around the barn, and I was filming because I wanted to review the footage later to show the other people involved in the series who couldn't make it. After we looked through a large portion of the barn, I stopped recording, and we headed out. The next thing to explore was the house. However, there was something off about it. It certainly looked abandoned, but it didn't feel like it was abandoned. I noticed an orange extension cord, saw it led to a small window near the ground. I could tell it was the basement, and the light was on. I looked over at my friend and cousin and told them that I was pretty sure someone lived here. There was no garage and no car, but the light in the basement immediately told me that someone lived here. My cousin, for some reason, thought nothing of it and was going to try the door when, sure enough, a truck started coming down the driveway. So here we are, 3 teenagers standing right next to someone's house during the late afternoon with someone driving down the road. My cousin and I immediately started to speed walk away from the house and towards the barren field. The truck pulled up near us, and a middle-aged Mexican man got out. He asked us what we were doing, and I said that we were walking through the field to a nearby neighborhood. He looked at us for a bit, and we started to back up and went inside. That immediately put an end to our exploration that day. The thing that makes this story one of the biggest dodged bullets is, what if my cousin broke into the house? What if I didn't notice the extension cable? Imagine all three of us in his house when he came home.